Oh, hi guys, Howard again. I was asked by a subscriber, thanks Matthew, to do a review of my Yashica Minister series cameras. There were 6 cameras in the series and I have 2 of them, but I'll only review one of them in this review, my Minister III. I'll do my D700 as a separate review, as it is a very different camera. The 6 models, starting with the original Minister in 1960, all had the same Yashica 45mm f2.8 lens, 5 elements in 4 groups, which was used in a whole range of various Yashica cameras and was a very good lens. The exceptions to this were the M and the D700. The original Minister, 1960, was followed by the M with its Yashica 45mm f1.9 lens, 6 elements in 4 groups, followed by the Minister II, the Minister III, this camera, the Minister D, and finally the Minister D700 in the late 60s. This camera boasted a 45mm f1.7 Yashica lens, 6 elements in 4 groups, and was a forerunner of the excellent Electro series lenses. The Minister III uses a selenium light meter and was the last Yashica to do so. It has speeds of 1 second to 1/500th plus B. Apertures range from f2.8 to f22, and it uses the sometimes dreaded EV system. The subsequent Model D and the D700 both use a CDS cell, which of course required the 1.35 volt mercury battery. Okay, let's have a good look at my Minister 3. Now, when I bought this, I was very lucky. It came in a case and it had the lens hood on it, or the lens cap on it, I should say. And it was probably 8 or 9 years ago. I think I got it for about $35, and it's really in absolutely excellent condition. Now, because of the way it's been stored with the lens cap on, the selenium meter still works perfectly and gives very accurate light meter readings. There's the common wisdom that if selenium meters get too much light over too long a period, then they cease to generate any electricity. Well, this one works absolutely perfectly. Whether it's because it's been covered all that time or not is apparently open to dispute, but nevertheless it works perfectly. And I personally think it's a good idea to cover the lens, the selenium cells on cameras whenever you can. Okay, so let's have a look. So from the front, the first thing you really see is this clear plastic module, I'll call it, around the lens. Behind that is the actual selenium strip, which generates the electricity, and is covered what look a little bit like prisms. So whether that's for visual effect or for actual effect, I don't know. But anyway, it looks quite attractive. We've got the Yashica f2.8 lens, 45mm, that all Minister 3s came with. And because of the way the lens is sunk in quite a fair way, unless you're going to use a filter, you probably don't need an additional lens hood. So that's handy. Also for the front, we've got the little nameplate, Minister 3, in Roman numerals. Got the rangefinder window and the viewfinder window and the strap lugs, and that's about all that's going on from the front. Now, Yashica had decided by now that bulb flashes were no longer acceptable, so the little sync port around here simply has an X on it for electronic flash. If you try to use a bulb flash on this, it simply wouldn't work because the shutter will have taken the shot before the bulb builds up to anywhere near its full intensity. So there's no M setting on this camera. All right. Looking from the front, we've got the EVs. So we've got a little arrow, which everything has to point to. We've got the EV scale around here, which is the first thing that you set. So say it's, let's say it's 10. And that reading comes from the meter back here. And we'll get onto that in a minute. So say the meter gives you a reading of 10. We put that on 10. We then, if we're shooting action or anything, we move the speeds around till they effectively stop. You can, if you move it any further, it's going to move the ring, and then it will no longer be on 10. So you've got, depending on the ASA using and the light, you've got a range that you can work within. And within that range, it moves very freely, but over that, if you go past that range, you start to move the actual EV ring on the front, which of course is not the answer to anything. So we'll put it back on 10. It is. Okay. So on 10, the highest speed you can use is a 1/25th at f2.8. Or you could use a quarter at f16. So by turning the speeds, it has a reverse effect on the aperture, so you get exactly the same amount of light entering the camera on any of those settings that work within that range. And the apertures appear in the little window on the side here, depending on the speed you picked. Okay. Yeah, a lot of people really don't. They would simply just prefer to be able to pick an aperture and pick the speed manually. But this EV system, and it was very popular for a number of years. It links the two units together, so it works pretty well, really, but it can be a bit annoying at times. But if you work within the constraints of it, it's just fine. Back here we've got the focus ring. Now the only thing that doesn't line up with the little arrow is the range, is the distances, and there's a little red dot around in here. Can you see it? Yes, there it is. And so that's where your distances go. So it's obviously from infinity around to about 2.5 feet. And it's in feet and meters. Okay, so it covers everything in that range of things. Now, we've got the usual rewind knob, fold-out rewind knob, a little arrow to show you which direction it goes in, and they always go clockwise. Every camera I've ever come across goes clockwise to wind the film back into the cassette because of the way the cassette sits in the camera. We've got a cold shoe for your electronic flash in this case, or it could be other things, but yeah, generally it's for the flash if you're using a flash. We've got the ASA scale around the front here and the meter scale here. Now, I'll just move that there. Now, the one drawback with this camera, the one really serious drawback I find, and especially with people with less than perfect vision are going to find, is setting your ASA up in here. The ASA numbers are tiny, and then you've got a plastic piece in there with the green stripe on top. The green stripe eventually totally covers your ASA selection, and the plastic edges on the plastic piece in there also make it very hard to read. So unless you've got absolutely perfect 20/20 vision, or like me, you put on the second pair of glasses over the first pair, it's very hard to set. But once you set it, and the way I've done it now is I know that 100 ASA, these are parallel. So that's how I set this to 100 ASA. Now back at the meter, and of course as you rotate that to change the ASA, this inner dial, the black and silver dial, moves, which of course then when the needle comes across here, it'll read down the same spot but give you a different reading because the ASA is different. Because they're the numbers that you transpose to here, the EV ring. Okay. We've got a standard shutter release where it takes a normal screw-in cable release device. Around here we've got the frame numbers for the film, and that resets to 0 when you open the back, so that's all good. The film wind tucks away but stands out quite nicely for shooting, and it's not sharp or anything, so it's fine. Okay. Now, on the back, we've got the viewfinder window. Now, the viewfinder has no automatic parallax correction, and it doesn't have a full gold frame either. It's got 4 big gold corners, so which do the same job as a frame. So framing the photos is very easy. But just remember, there's no automatic parallax correction. So if you're very close to something, you might have to move the camera across a bit to adjust for it. This is a hard plastic little plug that can be levered out with a sharp edge, and I'm pretty sure that is for adjusting the horizontal rangefinder adjustment. So if at infinity your rangefinder isn't overlapping as it should, horizontally there's a screw behind there where you can do that. Okay, on the bottom we've got the usual rewind button to disengage the drive gear so you can rewind the film into the cassette. Standard 1/4 inch tripod mount. Now this is where it gets a little bit different. This has got a little thing that you can pull across, but you've got there's 2 actions. You've got to push it in and pull it across to open it. So it's sort of a double thing. You can't accidentally do it. It's quite tricky doing it at all, actually. Now, to load a film, it's a standard procedure. Push up the rewind button, drop in the cassette, push it down again, drag the film out. The take-up spool rotates inwardly, but there are slots with little teeth to engage with the sprocket holes on the film. So pushed in, make sure the tooth's engaged. Wind it around twice. Make sure it's taking up all right. Sitting on the teeth, the sprocket holes are sitting on the teeth. Close the back. You can turn the rewind knob to take up the any slack in the cassette, and then when you wind on, the rewind knob will go with it, and you'll know that the film's transporting correctly through the camera. Okay, so what can I say generally about these cameras? This is certainly the best of the selenium cell Minister cameras, with a possible exception of the M, which was the one with the nice 6-element lens, the 1.9. I've never handled one of those. It has the selenium meter up here, so it doesn't adjust automatically for filters the way this one does. But anyhow, this is a very nice little camera. It's built like a brick. It works really nicely. The viewfinder is clear. The rangefinder spot is strong. The only real drawback is because of probably my age and my eyes, but you really need good vision to see what you're doing up here. It's just so small, and the plastic blocks what you're trying to see, and that's a bit tricky. But other than that, a really nice little usable camera capable of excellent photos. Okay, so that's it, the Yashica Minister III from about 1965. Well, look, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please like and subscribe. It's free to subscribe and it helps the channel. If possible, I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers from my current, I think it was 902 when I looked today. And if I can get to 1,000, because I've got plenty of viewing hours up, that'll allow me to monetize the channel to pay for the odd cup of coffee, because that's about all it would do, but still it'd be nice. So look, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.